CBC Television. In Edmonton, Channel 5, Cable 4.
From CBC Edmonton, this is Newsfinal.
Good evening, I'm Larry Langley. In the news tonight, parents in Mill Woods keep a close watch on their children.
Hello, I'm Al Nagy. In sports, Scotty Bowman was back behind the bench tonight as the Buffalo Sabres took on the Montreal Canadiens.
And I'm Colin McLean. The theater season heats up with 2 plays, a visual and oral treat at the Citadel, and a disappointment at Stage West.
Our temperature tonight, -4. Parents in the Mill Woods area of
The military and the Mohawks meet face to face.
And I'm Colin McLean. Later on our Festival City coverage, a new hand at the tiller of the Fringe. Judy Moran takes over.
From CBC Edmonton, this is Edmonton's Newsday with Joanne Stefanik.
Tonight on CBC Alberta News at 11. The Alberta Legislature starts a new session. More on the avalanche that killed 9 skiers. And in sports, the Flames and the Kings continue their battle for first in the Smythe. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, as you've probably seen on the National and the Journal, Kurt Browning has done it again.
Tonight on the Sunday edition of the CBC Alberta News, the Old West and the wrangle over who should pay to preserve the heritage. Cold, slimy beasties, which aren't so beastly after all. And in sports, the new look Oilers take on those other guys. Good evening. Cutbacks and new sources of revenue. Sounds like a speech from the throne.
CBC Alberta News. From Edmonton, Bob Chelmick. From Calgary, Brenda Finley.
Tonight, the scandal widens as more Alberta charities report missing funds.
Fighting deportation. This mentally ill man insists he's a refugee.
A landmark Alberta radio station pulls the plug.
And they struck, they scored. A huge pay hike for referees. Good evening. The controversial issue of refugees seeking safe haven in Canada.
From CBC News, Canada Now.
I'm Gloria Makarenko in Vancouver. Walkerton wrap-up.
It's too simplistic to state that there was one cause.
Why more water rules are required. Fishing flashpoint.
And they'll start cutting our traps and grabbing our traps.
What will happen when burnt church permits expire?
Hello, I'm Erin Paul in Edmonton. Later on Canada Now at 6:30. Fire and fear. As the ethane burns in Fort Saskatchewan, skeptical residents wonder, is it really harmless?
When they don't tell us, we think there's always something they're hiding and it could be worse.
From CBC News, Canada Now.
Tonight, is this art offensive? Why some want these sculptures turned back into scrap. Oil and gas royalties first to review, now the aftershocks. And 1 cent away from the American dollar. Good evening. A dispute on a downtown street is pitting an artist against a religious community tonight.
Good afternoon.
This is the CBC News from Edmonton.
Doctors who've complained about intimidation demand their charges to be heard at a public inquiry.
Are you doing enough to protect your PIN?
You just pick the most common numbers in your brain.
A reminder to protect your cash and your identity.
And think electric cars are boring? Think again.
It's actually the first plug-in electric luxury vehicle in the world.
What the buzz is all about.
This is the CBC News from Edmonton with Mark Connolly and Portia Clark.
The debate over the focus of a public inquiry into Alberta's healthcare system is heating up.
CBC News at 6 starts right now.
Tonight, the city gets its crews out early to clean up our streets and fill all those potholes.
CBC News Edmonton at 6 with Portia Clark.
And thanks for watching The National. Now keep watching. Your local news starts right now.
Thanks, Amanda, and good evening. The massive search to find a soldier who has mysteriously disappeared has now been called off.
Good evening, I'm Alicia Asquith. This is CBC News Edmonton at 11. 2 veteran Edmonton police officers are in hot water tonight, accused of selling steroids. Thanks for joining us. 2 Edmonton police officers are facing charges tonight.
It's been a campaign few expected. The result, a true cliffhanger. What happens next? We'll begin to find out in just a few minutes. Welcome to election night in Alberta on the CBC.
I'm Rachel Notley, and I'm running to be your premier.
This is not an NDP province. I don't believe that, the voters of Alberta want to see an NDP coalition or an NDP government.
A vote for any other party is a vote for much higher taxes on our families, much higher taxes on all of us.
This is an election about trust. A government that has defaulted, betrayed the trust of Albertans for 30 years.
Good evening and welcome to our viewers in Alberta and right across the country watching on CBC News Network. I'm Rob Brown. Well, it began 28 days ago with very little enthusiasm. It's turned into a campaign unlike any other in Alberta's recent history.
This is CBC Edmonton News.
Good evening, I'm Alicia Asquith. The calls are growing louder tonight to ban so-called seclusion rooms in schools.
This is CBC Alberta News.
Good evening, I'm Alicia Asquith. It's been an emotional roller coaster of a weekend for the friends and family of Edmonton's most recent homicide victim.
We lost everything now. We don't have what we have on our backs.
Everything I worked for the last 2 years, it's all gone in smoke now.
As scary as it is to leave your home, it's not as frustrating or scary as to find that you're trapped.
Well, this is the destruction. Fort McMurray still evacuated and still under the constant threat of fire. Everyone who lives there forced from their homes as crews continue to do their best to stop the flames from spreading. I'm Sandra Batson, and this is CBC Edmonton News. We have a lot of reaction.
This is CBC Edmonton News.
Good evening. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. I'm Nancy Carlson, and we begin with how another province is managing to get millions of doses of a COVID-19 vaccine from Alberta.
This is CBC Edmonton News.
Good evening, I'm Sandra Batson. We begin tonight with the next steps in the COVID-19 situation here in Alberta.
This is CBC Alberta News.
Good evening, I'm Alicia Asquith. Thanks for joining us tonight. Ahead of International Women's Day, Edmontonians gathered across the city today to show their support for the women working on the front lines of this pandemic.
At Rainbow Valley Campground, I'm Adrienne Lamb, and this is Our Edmonton on CBC. Coming up, dream vacations. Edmontonians looking to book their exotic travel, and turns out there are deals to be had now.
The last month in particular, we're not only seeing a big surge in inquiry, but also bookings.
It's a big gardening weekend, and we're heading to Strathcona County to share some top tips for tending your tomato plants.
Tomatoes are heat lovers, so you don't want to plant them right in the ground because a few inches down it's still cold.
A restaurant for squirrels. We'll meet a Western Canadian entrepreneur who's made it her mission to serve up meals during the pandemic.
The squirrels can start here, have a little drink at the bar. We have a record player, you can pull up a stool.
And how about walking away with all this? Well, you can. Stick around. The opportunity to win our weekly contest is just minutes away. Welcome to Our Edmonton, coming to you this May-long weekend from the southwest of our city, where we're spending some time at Rainbow Valley Campground. We're going to show you around this spot.
And personal.
Entitlement and intolerance all rolled into one nice, neat little package.
This is coming from the crew that referred to Conservatives as sewer rats.
The issues are many. Jobs, GSAs, the environment, the economy, our very identity.
We will keep government working for you.
Is Alberta as progressive as the orange wave suggests? Or is it true
we can't afford to continue with 4 more years?
Our province prefers conservative blue.
This is about what the future of Alberta is going to look like.
And will there be room for other voices in the legislature?
Alberta voters are ready for change.
Where is Alberta going, and who will take it there? Tonight, the answers.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Rob Brown. To our viewers across Alberta and across Canada on CBC News Network and on Facebook, this is Alberta Votes. The polls are now closed and we're waiting for those results, waiting to see how Albertans reacted to one of the most contentious, heated election campaigns in our province's history.
My journey through journalism has taken me far from home and back again, and nowhere has matched the spirit of Edmonton. This city holds a special place in my heart. From embracing the outdoors through the changing seasons to sharing your stories, Edmonton, I'm Nancy Carlson, proud Edmontonian and your local CBC Edmonton News at 6 host.